TPUSA finally calls out Candace Owens by name after her 2.5-month crusade against the organization, against those in Charlie's inner circle, and even against his wife, Erica Kirk. We're going to look at that video posted to Charlie Kirk's channel, at the invitation to Candace to come on live and debate or substantiate the claims that she has made in front of a live audience in person, and her subsequent decline of that invitation for scheduling conflicts. Of course, we know it's because she cannot substantiate her claims or defend them, especially in a space where she does not control the narrative or the outcome of that interaction. Before we get into that, I want to look at Tim Pool's commentary on Candace Owens because I think it speaks to her character and what's at stake here. And then we're going to dive into the back and forth between TPUSA and Candace Owens. We're going to watch the video that TPUSA put out addressing Candace Owens, but I want to make my critique of TPUSA first. I believe that this is way too little, entirely too late. They let Candace say whatever she wanted to say unchecked. That green light did not pacify Candace Owens, it emboldened her. The time for TPUSA to have spoken out against Candace Owens to yield the best result would have been within the first week of Candace uploading these insane claims about Charlie. At first, the claims had to do with Israel, and TPUSA, even at the time of Charlie Kirk's death, was tiptoeing around the issue of Israel, which is why I believe they did not come out and directly address it, because the issue of Israel has been contentious and a sensitive subject on the right. It's leading to the schism happening on the right. And then from there, Candace made this about Charlie's inner circle, about Erica Kirk herself, then Egypt, then the Macrons in France, and then it snowballed out of control. But if I had to guess, I would say the issue of Israel was so sensitive, they did not want to tarnish Charlie Kirk's legacy on the issue of Israel or make it about the issue of Israel alone. And so they took a step back. That was a green light for Candace. Appeasement very rarely ever pacifies an aggressor. It only emboldens them. And this might be a radical example to compare Candace to Hitler, although it's becoming more and more apparent that they have a lot of similarities ideologically and also in their delivery. When Hitler rose to power in interwar Germany, he was not wildly popular. In fact, he represented the fringe radicalism at the time. But when he was appointed as chancellor in 1933, it was believed by the German conservative political elites that he would soon be ousted from government because he was too radical. And we know, thanks to history, that that's not true. Appeasement is a green light to narcissists, to radical political figures, to cult leaders. And then it happened again prior to the outbreak of World War II, as Germany was building their army, violating the Versailles Agreement that ended World War I, and becoming aggressive with its neighbors. The continent and the continent's leaders chose to pacify Hitler. They chose appeasement with Hitler. Well, and then Hitler took Poland. And it wasn't until Winston Churchill said no that someone stopped Hitler. But again, the time to have stopped Hitler's aggression would have been in 1933 before he became chancellor, or would have been prior to the outbreak of World War II. This is a cautionary tale. Radicalism never just goes away because you ignore it. You have to put a definitive stop to it, and it requires people within the mainstream to speak out. And when it comes to Candace, we see very few people willing to speak out. And we're going to look at Tim Pool speaking out against Candace Owens after this clip. But first, let's see what TPUSA is now saying about Candace, and then we'll look at Tim Pool, and then we'll look at what Candace has to say.
We wanted to use this segment at the top of this hour to say something important, something very important. For the past 2.5 months, there is a topic that has flooded our Freedom inbox. It has been nonstop on social media, but which we have almost totally avoided on this show.
And again, that is the grave error. And I believe, and this, it saddens me to say this, but this is my assessment. I think TPUSA will never recover. There was a small window after Charlie Kirk's death where TPUSA had a ton of momentum, but the division on the right, fueled by Candace Owens, the hatred towards TPUSA and those who now run it coming from the right, is fueled and empowered by Candace Owens. Not only does TPUSA have to figure out how to reimagine the organization outside of the personality and the leader, Charlie Kirk, they now have to combat the immense amount of hate coming from their own side.
Probably already know what I'm talking about, which shows just how ubiquitous it has been. Ever since Charlie's murder, Candace Owens has leveled a flood of allegations against people at Turning Point USA, people at Turning Point Action, and people who work for this show. She's made them against some of Charlie's closest friends and against some of his most dedicated employees. She has suggested that Michael McCoy, Charlie's chief of staff, knew Charlie would be murdered, was happy that he died, and stayed silent because he was told he would be the next Charlie. She has suggested Michael is not his real name. It is. I have seen his birth certificate myself.
She's also claimed that Erica was part of the cover-up so that she would become the CEO and head of TPUSA. Yet she also claimed that Charlie was killed by France to distract her from revealing MKUltra secrets and the connections of the Macrons to the MKUltra experiments. So the motivations, again, for Charlie's assassination are ever shifting, yet she'll just defame anyone in her path who was close to Charlie. To me, that speaks of deep envy, resentment, and I think sheer evil intentions, which Tim Pool is going to echo that in the clip we're about to watch. You can't claim to be someone's best friend, brother and sister, and then go after the closest people in his life after his death and call for people to rescind funding to TPUSA, his legacy. That's not what a best friend does. And the fact that the cult of Candace doesn't quite piece that together is really concerning. They have appointed her as like the crusader for truth in the name of Charlie Kirk, and yet they cannot see what's right in front of them, that this woman hates Charlie and is doing everything in her power to destroy those closest to Charlie and his legacy, which is the organization TPUSA.
She has called it suspicious that Mikey's wife, who works at Turning Point, helped plan the campus tour event where Charlie was murdered, which she didn't, by the way. She doesn't work on campus events. Candace has suggested the Utah Valley University event was unusual and its details suggested a, quote, inside job. She has claimed that foreign aircraft have followed Erica Kirk around the country and that Turning Point has lied about this happening. She has accused us of lying about Charlie wanting Erica to take over for him if he died. She has suggested Charlie's security team intentionally denied him first aid after the shooting to ensure that he died.
That's a despicable claim. And also false if you watch the video or the up-close footage of Charlie Kirk's assassination, which I do not recommend you do. It is horrific. I wish I had never seen it. First aid was not going to save Charlie Kirk's life. And I believe it was a mercy of God that he died instantaneously, because that would have been a horrific wound to slowly die from. Erica Kirk herself said that the autopsy revealed he likely died instantaneously. So for Candace to make this claim, to insinuate that those on his team, those closest to him, those on his security team, maliciously let him die out is a despicable claim.
It's about the head of our technical team because he took an SD card out of a camera. She has spread absurd claims that Tyler Boyer, who we just had on the show, sexually abuses male interns. She has suggested that TPUSA faith-affiliated pastors, like theologian Frank Turek, who we'll have on in a moment, and Pastor Rob McCoy, are part of a military, quote, infiltration of Turning Point, either because they are veterans or because they have family members who are. Even if not everyone has been named specifically, though, Candace has effectively tarred everyone here with complicity in Charlie's death by repeatedly saying he was, quote, betrayed by, quote, everyone. She has said Charlie's murder, quote, had to be approved by Charlie's friends, and then suggested those friends might have her murdered too for, quote, knowing the truth.
I thought it was the French who were trying to keep you from exposing the MKUltra truths and the connection to the Macrons. Which one is it? Again, always shifting.
She has made claims of financial impropriety and fraud at Turning Point, adding up into the millions of dollars, which, again, is not true. Charlie made sure the organization was audited by a third party every year. He personally reviewed and he signed off on every expense report and literally every single bill paid by the organization down to a single United States dollar. We have never missed a 990 deadline. Candace has made other stranger allegations involving French paratroopers in maroon shirts, Egyptian Air Force planes flying out of Provo, Utah, and potential underground assassins traveling through unseen tunnels. At one point in early November, she started wildly throwing suspicion on members of Utah Valley's soccer team for wearing hoodies. I could go on. There is always something new coming up, and none of it ever pans out because from the start, there has been nothing there.
What he's referring to is that bait and switch that Candace does. Let me make an incendiary claim, have no evidence for it, put it down, and fix my eyes on something else. And because Candace puts out so much content, it's really hard to keep track of what she says. However, she has not substantiated a single claim. I want to go back to my claim that this response is too little too late. And not to be cynical, but just to point out that pacifying radicalism is dangerous. This should be a cautionary tale for the GOP, for the American right. This video has 233,000 views. That was posted 2 days ago. Candace's 2 videos responding to TPUSA has 2 million views. This was streamed 1 day ago, and 1.3 million views streamed 20 hours ago. Candace now yields more influence on the culture than TPUSA. her voice amplifies louder than the Charlie Kirk show now that Charlie Kirk is not there. So unfortunately, TPUSA can counter her. They can challenge her to substantiate her claims. They can challenge her to a debate where she's required to, in person, show receipts or counter their claims. Candace isn't going to do that, of course. But it doesn't matter because the cult of Candace is behind Candace. No minds are going to be changed in a debate between TPUSA and Candace Owens. Those echo chambers already solidly exist. Let's see what Tim Pool has to say because I think he accurately assessed Candace and her motivation and her character.
So when I look, I think the idea that Charlie would want her to advocate everyone pull their donations from the organization he built.
Yeah, ridiculous.
No one hates Charlie more than Candace Owens. Let me say that very, very clearly. I want to say it straight to the camera for all of her biggest fans, and then she can grab this clip and put it on her show. I do think it's absolutely hilarious that we're a substantially smaller show than hers, but
which she did, by the way. He's actually on her cover art for her most recent video.
She brought us up anyway. So thanks for saying my name, Candace. No one hated Charlie Kirk more than Candace Owens. She reviles him, she spits on his grave, and she smiles while doing it. Okay, quote over. And I'll say this because Charlie spent his life building out these organizations. Candace is doing everything in her power to tear them down. She hates Charlie. She hates what Charlie built, and she wants it to burn. She hates Charlie's family. She hates Charlie's friends. She's accused them of killing him. She's accused his wife of having knowledge of these events. And then she comes out and says, I never said that. Not in the literal sense, but there's literally no other logical conclusion to what you're saying. So when I look at Colvett and Bowyer and Blake and Erica and the people who work at Turning Point, and I say, you know, maybe they're not handling things properly and they don't know what to do what Charlie was doing. There's fears that Turning Point can't make it without Charlie. All of that is them trying to make Turning Point survive. Candace is advocating you abandon Turning Point USA.
And that's a great point. A best friend who loved Charlie like a brother would not advocate that you abandon his legacy. So for all the crazy Candace fans out there, that alone does not make sense. Forget about all the crazy claims that she's made. Her motivations don't make sense. So in the video clip TPUSA posted on the Charlie Kirk show, they invite Candace to come on and defend the claims that she has made in person. Candace accepts and then backs out. So this is a clip of her flip-flopping and then also blaming TPUSA.
If Candace is available, we would sincerely welcome her participation in that live stream at our studio here in Phoenix. At this point, we believe the ball is back in her court.
So I accept it with whistles and bells, everything. I fully accept. You can pick the place. You can pick the time. At 4 p.m. Eastern, 2 p.m. local time on Monday, December 15th from Charlie's Phoenix studio, our offer from yesterday holds. If Candace wishes to join us in person in Phoenix, you can pick the place. You can pick the time. Obviously, leading up to Christmas, that's the last week of our show. Obviously, it's a pretty busy week. You can pick the place. You can pick the time. But no, they need to have it in person in Phoenix on December 15th, or they cannot have me at all.
So in the initial invitation, it was in person at their headquarters. And then she decided, oh no, I actually can't substantiate any of my claims in person where I can't control the narrative and outcome. So this has to be done online. And on top of it, I'm not going to actually be live with you. I'll react live to your live, meaning that there's no two-way fact checking, which means it's by nature not a debate. And Candace can control the narrative and the outcome again because she cannot be checked or challenged on anything that she says. There's this great X account called Cinema Shogun, and he watches Candace Owens so that me and you don't have to waste our time and we can spare our ears her grating voice, and he gives us a summary. So this is a summary of her most recent episode. Candace opens the show pretending it's really strange that TPUSA scheduled a time and place for the debate despite the fact that she challenged them to do this yesterday. She says it's obvious they're hiding something because they replied to her last night, just a few hours after her show. She goes on a rant about the Pentagon press secretary exposing that Candace never alerted them about her assassination plot. She complains TPUSA didn't give her enough time to respond to the date they sent while literally responding to the date they sent. She claims them accepting her challenge is a shady, planned PR move. She rambles on for a few minutes, upset that they finally accepted her challenge to debate. Claims she'll do it virtually, but not in person. Says they would all lie if she was in the room with them. Accuses TPUSA of using radical left-wing tactics to cover up their involvement in Charlie's assassination. Once again says she'll debate any place, anytime, while refusing to debate any place or any time. Egyptian planes enter the chat. Accuses TPUSA of hiding info about the Egyptian planes. Says she has an identity for one of the people on the Egyptian plane. Shows zero evidence. Now she says there's another Egyptian plane. Pulls up a fake timeline. Says President of Egypt was once on the plane. Her proof is an X post from someone known for reposting her clips. There's no proof in said X post. Delivers a 3-minute word salad about TPUSA not asking questions about Egyptian planes. She once again says she desperately wants to debate TPUSA anytime. Says she's the voice for how the entire world feels. That is the definition of a narcissist. She gets mad that people have been laughing at her show. Well, Candace, because your show has highlighted your psychopathy and how crazy you are. Says it's no joke, the French want her dead. Says it's strange that the government denied knowing about her assassination plot. Maybe because there's no assassination plot. And we're going to look at how Candace has been in Dollywood and at one of Tucker Carlson's Christmas parties over the last week, frolicking around with friends and in public, despite the fact that she claims there is a mark on her head for her life. Remember, she already admitted to never alerting them and only sending a text. Then she takes shots at Ben Shapiro for making fun of her. Plays clip of someone saying, they'll slap Ben Shapiro. She says the government has dumbed people down for years, and that's why they don't believe her theories. She goes on to rant that people who get murdered are usually murdered by people they know, while suggesting TPUSA killed Charlie Kirk. Says she watches a lot of true crime shows, so she knows. Demands for TPUSA to tell her who was trying to kill Charlie Kirk while naming multiple TPUSA members that it could have been. She accuses Tim Pool of having a mental breakdown about her, which is a clip that we just watched. She plays a clip of him calling her out. She says she doesn't care about the stupid midterms. Says people who vote are mules. Says nothing in Charlie Kirk's life was real. Says TPUSA are working with feds to bury the story. Thanks a viewer for a massive donation. Says she doesn't care about being at parties with famous political people. She was just photographed at a political influencer Christmas party last night. That's the Tucker Carlson event I was talking about. She ends it all talking about how she needs to promote her book more on social media before reading viewer questions. Overall, today's episode mainly consisted of her talking about how she's ready to debate at any time while refusing to debate at the time TPUSA set up, with an occasional rant about people making fun of her. 6 Egyptian plain word salads that mean absolutely nothing. 50 challenges to debate while refusing to debate. 0 evidence shown. Complete waste of time. I think this account is brilliant. Again, I encourage everyone to follow it. Now, remember, she's refusing to go on the Charlie Kirk show to defend her claims that those in his inner circle killed Charlie Kirk. Yet, in the most recent video from the recap I just gave you guys, she makes the claim, yet again, doubling down, that those within Charlie's inner circle at TPUSA most definitely killed him.
How dare you question the ghost of Charlie Kirk? Are you suggesting that Charlie could have possibly not had good judgment? Am I suggesting that I've maybe watched a lot of hours of IDTV and it seems like, yeah, it's a kind of a common theme that when people die, you should question the people closest to them? Actually, yeah, I am suggesting that it's like a very high percentage of murders that are committed by somebody else they know. I think it's like north of 95% of murders. And no matter how many adjectives you assign to people at Turning Point USA, we're not going to accept this narrative, okay? We're not going to accept this narrative, especially when you're lying and you won't tell us the relevant portions. Who did he think was going to kill him? Andrew Colvett? Can you tell us, Andrew? Can you tell us, Blake Neff? Can you tell us, Mikey McCoy?
Again, the psychopathy, the compulsive lying on display, accusing everyone else of lying when she lies, and then challenge them to defend those lies, which she will not do by denying to debate the people who are accusing her of lying. Okay, so these are some of the tweets. Candace says, in reference to Blake Neff's post about the live stream being announced for 4 p.m. 2 p.m. Eastern Time, Monday, December 15th. She says, kind of weird how you didn't email or call me to ask about times or availability and chose to instead tweet this information out at midnight. Why am I learning about this on X? She says that the date and the time does not work for her because she does her podcast at that time. She then goes on to say, also add that I am happy to jump on Charlie's show any day before then, virtually as well. I was serious when I said we could do it today even. Virtually, I can make it happen pretty much any day because it's easier to move things around with the kids and find someone to sub for my morning homeschooling. Okay, like we all believe that Candace Owens is homeschooling her kids in the morning. I think not. Second off, she retracts and says, I can't do it in person, but I'll do it virtually. What are some of the advantages of doing it virtually? Well, she can have it in your piece. She can have fact checkers with her. She can have her team behind the scenes researching stuff, trying to pool evidence. Even though it's live with the Charlie Kirk show, there's a lot more support that she can have behind the scenes that her audience wouldn't see to try and defend the claims that she has made. So Candace backs out of the invitation to be in person for this live stream debate. Then she says she could do it virtually. And then I think she realizes that that doesn't even look good for her. So she says, it has been decided by the public that the best response for this is for my team to live stream your live stream and provide commentary. Again, a one-way channel of communication, so they can't fact check her. Since you already picked our regular podcasting time, we look forward to providing live responses to your once and for all answers. Okay, and then the final tweet, this is the most recent one that she has posted, is also just debating the need for her to be there in person. She said, you literally said we would sincerely welcome her to her participation in that live stream, which you were clear your team would be streaming from your studio in Phoenix at a date that has not been decided. You never said she must be in person for the stream and she must respond within 24 hours after we choose a date and time. Okay, so then Candace goes on to try and make TPUSA look malicious for insisting that this be in person or at least her participating live virtually. She said, you said we would sincerely welcome her participation in that live stream, which you were clear your team would be streaming from your studio in Phoenix at a date that had not been decided. You never said she must be in person for the stream and she must respond within 24 hours after we choose a date and time. There was nothing sincere about what you did following that announcement and you deserve the ratio you're getting. Frankly, nothing has felt sincere about the organization since Charlie passed. She's making it seem like this invitation is not sincere. To deflect from the fact that the reason she doesn't want to go on is because she can't defend the wild and insane claims that she has made. Now let's look at what Candace has been doing since she claimed the French government was going to assassinate her. Because this is like another side story. Remember last week, even though this week she's saying Charlie's closest friends and family has something to do with his assassination, last week she was on the rant that it was actually the French government that was trying to distract her, took out Charlie Kirk as a distraction, and was now coming after her. So Candace, trying to escape responsibility and go on to TPUSA's live in person or even virtually at this point, is so insane that even Nick Fuentes is calling her out. He says, you were invited to TPUSA headquarters to press their leadership live and in person about their role in Charlie Kirk's murder. But you can't go because of a scheduling conflict? LOL. Isn't this what you've been pushing for since September? Time to put up or shut up. Not only is Nick Fuentes calling Candace Owens out for not debating TPUSA, but he's also calling her out for her recent activities, despite the fact that she claimed last week the French government was trying to kill her and she was going to be taking a break, going essentially into hiding to protect herself and her family. Well, she also happened to take this break over Thanksgiving break when most people are taking a break. And in that time, she went to Dollywood and then also a Christmas party hosted by Tucker Carlson. This is a picture of Candace Owens being spotted at Dollywood and someone put Crisis King. So this is obviously a fan who saw her. Breaking, Candace Owens was spotted at Dollywood this week. To be clear, she apparently has foreign assassins trying to kill her. She has to file an FBI report and decided to go to an amusement park where she's an open target. You don't think Mossad and the French Legionnaires can't like infiltrate the immense security at Dollywood? Please. So not only did she go to Dollywood, but she also went to a New Right America Only influencer event hosted by Tucker Carlson in Nashville, Tennessee. And here are just some photos from the event. There's Tucker. Oh, there's Marjorie Taylor Greene. And there's Candace. So you have a hit on your head and you go to Dollywood, an amusement park, not known for its security. And then you also go to a Christmas party with a bunch of people. If you were afraid for your life, I think you would actually go into hiding. So this is what she does when she's quote unquote afraid for her life. And then this is a clip of Nick Fuentes calling her out for doing both of those things.
If she's so afraid for her life, why was she at Tucker Carlson's Christmas party in Nashville last night? Why was she at Dollywood on Thanksgiving, the theme park? So allegedly, the French government and the Israeli intelligence have put a hit out on you. They've paid millions of dollars to kill you, but you're walking around a theme park in your town. You're walking around, for those that don't know, what is it? Dollywood, Dollyland. It's like Dolly Parton's Disney World. You're walking around Disney World. You're walking around an amusement park in your hometown on the holiday weekend when allegedly everyone's trying to kill you. Then you go to a Christmas party with Tucker Carlson in the same city attended by hundreds of people, and people know you're going to be there with Tucker and all the based people in one room, but you can't go to Turning Point where everybody knows you're going to be. And if anything happened to you, God forbid, they would immediately blame Turning Point. It doesn't even make any sense.
So that's what Nick Fuentes had to say. I think he makes some valid points. I think he's also vying for the same pool of influence. And if he can make Candace look crazy and discredit her, the audience that she's captivated is his for the taking. So he's personally motivated to call her out, but what he's saying is not untrue. Lastly, I want to address people on the right who are saying TPUSA should not debate Candace Owens. And I think that's a miscalculation. I don't think Candace is going to opt in to an in-person or even virtual live debate. She's going to try and control the narrative and the outcome as much as possible to protect the lies that she has put forth. And she's going to make herself look like the victim of TPUSA while doing it. I want to look at 3 examples of Candace speaking without the help of a teleprompter, without show notes, without a team behind her, without in-ears making her look good, because Candace actually cannot hold her own in a debate. She has a really difficult time articulating her ideas. I think a lot of her political career has been her parroting other people's ideas, whether that was Charlie Kirk, Ben Shapiro, and Dennis Prager. So this clip is from a TPUSA event.
1930s, there was another America First movement, sort of isolationist movement, saying we mustn't go to war in Europe again after the First World War. Do you think that those America First supporters then were right? Do you think that America shouldn't have gone into that Second World War?
Yeah, and that is a radical statement. People don't know how to deal with that because we've all been so brainwashed by the school system to believe that, well, look how great things are. Let me ask you about your country. Do you think that your country has become greater since? Has our country become greater since? Absolutely not. You know, this whole idea of international liberalism. Now it's not just about your problems, it's about solving the world's problems. Let's make sure that in Pakistan there's a trans flag waving. No.
Okay. This interviewer, who's British, asked Candace about isolationism. And Candace responds with, well, do you think your country is better off for America entering the war? Take a step back. Even if you're not well-versed in history, she's asking this British man if the world is better off, if his country and if the US is better off for our involvement in World War II. Well, the interviewer would be speaking German, so I would say definitively his life is better off for US intervention in World War II. This highlights her ignorance and her lack of historic perspective. This clip is also an example of lack of historic and geopolitical perspective. This was directly after October 7th, when she's challenging through her just asking questions tactic on Palestinian rights or Arab rights within Israel. And she points to the Arab quarter in Jerusalem as an example of segregation in Israeli society. If you've never been to Jerusalem, it's divided into 4 quarters. There's the Arab quarter, the Jewish quarter, the Armenian quarter, and the Christian quarter. And those are not legally segregated areas of the old city. It's just traditionally and historically the neighborhoods that these different ethno-religious groups have lived in for thousands of years. It is not an institutionalized segregation. And her ignorance or her lack of understanding and knowledge is perfectly highlighted in this clip.
So when I'm walking through Jerusalem and you see, and they say these are the Muslim quarters, this is where the Muslims are allowed to live, that doesn't feel like a bastion of freedom to me. So I guess.
Oh, I don't think it's where they're allowed to live in Jerusalem. I think it's that there's an Armenian quarter. It's not saying the Armenians can only live here. It's that there are communities, just like there's a Jewish community in Jersey here, and there's a Muslim community in here. I don't, to my understanding, it's not restrictions within Israel proper of where Israeli.
I think it is where they have. I mean, at least that's what the rabbi who was taking me around. He said these are the Muslim quarters, so this is where the Muslims
live. But he didn't say anything about legally saying they cannot live on other places within Israel proper. I mean, there's Israeli Arab citizens.
So when I'm walking through.
Okay. The last clip I want to show you is from Candace Owens and her CNN interview. Now, the interviewer they got is kind of annoying. There was a lot of backlash, and I think it undermined the interview in that Candace looked horrible, but a lot of people who are in the cult of Candace were criticizing the almost condescending way the interviewer was talking. So the optics, I don't think, yielded the maximum outcome it could have. However, the interviewer does expose the fact that Candace blatantly lies or has misrepresented facts surrounding Charlie Kirk's assassination. And I think this clip is a really good foreshadowing of what a potential live or in-person debate between TPUSA and Candace would look like. It would be her served with receipts that contradict everything that she has said, which is why she's not going to ever debate TPUSA.
Say you believe that Charlie Kirk was betrayed by someone close to him. What do you mean?
I think that in the coming weeks, there's going to be a lot of financial reports that are coming out. And I, first and foremost, do not believe that Tyler Robinson killed Charlie Kirk. I want to be very clear on that. Whether he was involved, I think the answer is yes. I think that's obvious.
And your basis for saying he didn't act alone is what?
I don't know, maybe the weird Fed messages that were concocted out of thin air that had no timestamp and were written like they were speaking in 1822, among other things. Their lack of an ability to answer any basic questions about what took place.
But do you have any proof that the messages were made up? Because that would be easily proven.
Yeah, but they didn't put timestamps on them, and Discord came out and said they didn't exist.
This was supposedly text messages, not Discord messages. It's my understanding from the indictment.
I actually did not read that they were text messages.
The indictment calls them text messages.
What would it be like the feds are like on a computer, like typing it out back and forth?
That's exactly what it is. The feds.
Oh my gosh, she's so dumb. Her face is uncomfortable. She's twitching. I think that's also signs of like the narcissism. Being called out is uncomfortable to her, but she cannot articulate her point. And she also is being called out in real time for the false narrative that she's putting forth. And she's fact check and then rejects that fact checking.
You don't have anyone from like the FBI telling you that, or law
I have
enforcement?
leaks.
Okay.
You can't say I have leaks and then not show the information to prove what you're saying. That's not a debate. That's not journalism. That is lies. That's defamation. That's slander. That's not even a conspiracy theory at that point. It's compulsive lying.
No.
Has anyone leaked to you?
And Tyler Robinson has.
What has anyone said to you, even off the record, like, yeah, we faked these?
I have very strong sources everywhere on both sides.
Well, I look forward to seeing the evidence of that.
Sure. Because when we keep talking about evidence, it's like, who's going to present that evidence? Like the mainstream media? Like who are you expecting to come
be a
out?
hot story.
No, it wouldn't be.
It would be.
It is. You know it's a hot story, Candace. Your entire platform has grown because you refuse to not talk about it. So it is a hot story. And if the mainstream media won't put the information forth, why don't you? Why don't you bring the receipts? With that, I will leave you. I don't plan on reacting to everything Candace does, but this perfectly picked up where my last video left off, highlighting the lies about her assassination claims and her inability to defend the claims that she has put forth over the last 2.5 months in over 35 episodes where she has fixated on Charlie Kirk. The fact that she refuses to even do a live stream with TPUSA to debate or defend the claims that she has made should highlight to every Candace Owens follower that she is a fraud. I think the best response would be a suit against her and settle this in court. I'll see you in the next episode.